Several years ago, the Royal Bank of Scotland sent an offer for a gold MasterCard to Monty Slater. The credit card came with a $20,000 credit limit. $20,000. Quite impressive for Monty's first credit card. It's a particularly large credit limit when you consider that Monty is a Shih Tzu dog. Raymond, his owner, thought about using the card for some of Monty's favorite treats, but later reconsidered, recognizing that his puppy was not in a position to pay the balance when it came due, and how that might negatively affect Monty's credit score. Mickey Wilson, our conference treasurer for the United Methodist Church, he gave the message at our district training yesterday, and he said that his daughter's credit card once got stolen when she was attending college at SMU. And he said once he realized it was stolen, he didn't report it for a few months because the person who stole his daughter's credit card spent less on it than his daughter did. Now, these are both funny stories, but they illustrate a sobering truth. We live in a world that encourages us to live beyond our means. We are enticed to have it now and pay for it later, as opposed to being good stewards of our God-given resources. We are all caught in this struggle in one way or another. No one is exempt from this, myself included. We're taught to follow the American dream. We're taught that success is defined by the stuff that we possess. Our forefathers believed in freedom, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They believed that America could be more, but this dream has become a nightmare. Our consuming, acquiring, and buying has left us angry, depressed, empty, and sometimes emotionally, spiritually, and literally bankrupt. The American dream has become our nightmare, for we've become like the prodigal son in Luke 15. Many of us know the story about the prodigal son who took his inheritance from his father, squandered everything, ended up living with pigs, and then returned to his father full of shame, only to be greeted with open arms. Many of us think that prodigal stands for someone who wanders away and is lost, but the word prodigal literally means one who wastes money. A prodigal is someone who wastes money, and many of us struggle with this bad habit. The prodigal son wanted his inheritance from his father, and he wanted it now. His inheritance was a piece of property that could have supplied his income for the rest of his life. He could have grown crops or kept flocks on the property, and this would have provided a great livelihood. But the son didn't see it that way. All he wanted was pleasure, instant gratification. He wasn't interested in saving or using his money wisely for tomorrow. He was living in the now. I mean, many of us can relate, can't we? I mean, did you know that 50% of all Americans have less than $25,000 set aside for their retirement? We say, I'm not worried about tomorrow, I want it today. I can have pleasure now. That's what so many of us think, and that's what the younger son thought. The prodigal son sold his inheritance that his father had saved for him so he could have, quote-unquote, a meaningful experience right then and there. But the meaningful experience, the satisfaction and instant gratification, it quickly wore off, and there was nothing left. Dave Ramsey, he talks a lot about how we all know there are just certain laws at work in the world where we all know what will happen next. We squandered all our money and have nothing left, and then the car breaks down, or we have medical needs, or the air conditioning breaks down, and we find that we have no money, so we rely on a little plastic card, and we charge it, and we go a little further into debt. And then we find something else that we need, and we just can't wait. So we go a little further and further and further into debt. And pretty soon we find ourselves where we feel like we're not going to make it anymore. We long for what someone else is eating because we can't make it on our own anymore. But when our life purpose is enjoying and having as much pleasure as we can in the moment, the things we do tend to become less and less satisfying, until finally we come to a place where we are completely dissatisfied. We waste away opportunities that are before us, selling out for short-term pleasure. We're broke and we're sick. We suffer from two illnesses, affluenza and credititis. Affluenza is our constant need to have bigger and better stuff. It's the constant unfulfilled feeling to keep up with the Joneses. It's our desire to acquire. Our second disease is credititis. It's the quote-unquote opportunity to buy now and pay later. It's this idea that we can enjoy this now and pay for it later, and it encourages a lack of self-discipline. Dave Ramsey has reported that financial issues such as credit card debt has been the #1 cause of divorce. Affluenza and credititis can become addictions within us that can cause a bigger nightmare than we've ever imagined. Everyone know the store Kohl's? Who's been to Kohl's before? I know you have. Kohl's and I, we don't get along very well. You see, Shannon likes to shop at Kohl's quite often. But it's not all Shannon's fault, you see, because Kohl's has this little system that keeps my wife shopping there. First, Kohl's marks its clothing at a high price so that when you see a sale, it seems like it's a really good deal. So you buy a few clothing items on sale, and then you sign up for their email and mailing list. And then my wife gets coupons in the mail or in her email every day for 15, 25, or 30% off. So my wife just has to use the coupon. And then my wife brings her new stuff with her lovely coupon, and they say, if you sign up for a Kohl's credit card, you'll get an additional 20% off on your next order. Ooh, more savings, sign me up. Then we just have to come get more stuff because we are saving so much money. But then, when we're buying our new stuff, we see a sign that says, if you purchase this much, you'll get $20 cold cash to spend on your next purchase. That's how they get you. Shannon knows that that's my comment whenever they hand another coupon to us or Kohl's cash, is I say, that's how they get you. And Shannon and I, we have this deal that whenever I talk about her in a sermon, she gets to go shopping. So now Kohl's is even going to make money on my sermon. That's how they get you. Stores know that one of our greatest temptations for money wasting is impulse buying. We're suckers for that 4-letter word, sale. We have tons of items in our closet that were impulse buys because of a sale or because of Kohl's cash. But don't get me wrong, I'm just as bad. In fact, I have a new rule for myself. It's called the don't go to the grocery store when you're hungry rule. What happens is Shannon will ask me to pick up a few things like butter and milk and eggs, but you always seem to have to walk down the aisle with the chips and sodas to get to the dairy products. So I become mesmerized by spicy Doritos and Flamin' Hot Cheetos and my first love, Code Red Mountain Dew. And I become entranced and there's no way of getting out. And then once I get to what I came for, on the way back, I go down a different aisle, the frozen aisle. And the lights are turned off in the frozen aisle, and it feels like a holy moment when the lights just magically turn on right here. It's like I'm just supposed to be on this aisle in this very moment. I raise my arms to magically turn on the lights and I walk by. And I turn to my right and I see drumstick ice cream cones, and I know that I am just destined to bring these home so I can savor them. A grocery trip that would have cost me $15 ends up costing me $75, sometimes more. Adam Hamilton says that these are our top 2 money wasters: impulse buying and eating out. Kiplinger's Personal Finance magazine, it reports that the average American eats out 4 times a week. If a family of 4 were to order burger, fries, and a soft drink at a sit-down restaurant like Chili's, it would cost about $40 to $50, including tip, depending on the restaurant. If they were to eat out 4 times a week, 52 weeks a year, this would cost them $10,000 or more in a year. The cost of preparing the same meal at home would be only $15 to $20. The difference would be around $30 a meal, which would amount up to $6,000 a year. This could be money saved or given away or used for something more meaningful. Now, I'm not suggesting that we don't eat out or we don't spend money on clothes or buy ice cream. I'm just suggesting that there are ways we can stop wasting money and use it for something more lasting and meaningful. And let me say this. We are in a position to judge only ourselves. We know how much money that we make and how much we give away. We know how much we may need something or how much we may not. We know when it's okay to splurge and buy something we don't really need because there is a balance in our lives, and we know when it's not okay. We know these things about ourselves. We don't know them about anyone else, even though we may think that we do. But some of you may not be broke. Some of you may be doing okay. You don't have creditors calling you and asking for payments. For some of us, it's just that the more money we make, the more money we waste. We waste a dollar here and a dollar there, but at the end of the year, we say, where did all of our money go? Dave Ramsey, he says this is one of my favorite quotes from him. He says, if you don't know where your money is going, you won't know where it went. If you don't know where your money is going, you won't know where it went. And every dollar we choose to waste is a dollar that could be used for something more meaningful, something that could have a lasting impact. It could have been saved or invested for retirement or given to help others and to support God's kingdom. The story of the prodigal son is not just a story about God's grace, that this father welcomed the wasteful son back into his home in his kingdom, although that is the primary lesson. But the story of the prodigal son is also a lesson for us not to waste away what we've been given. The deeper problem within us we must face is the truth that our constant desire to acquire is not just a stress on our wallets, our marriages, and our families as much as we need to face this reality, but this desire to acquire is also a spiritual issue as well. Affluenza and credititis, it separates us from our desire for God. We have turned our desire for God into a desire for possessions. We were meant to find security in God, but we find it in hoarding our wealth. We were meant to love people, but instead we compete with them to show off our latest gadgets and clothes. We were meant to enjoy the simple pleasures in life, but we busy ourselves with pursuing more money and greater things. We were meant to be generous and to share with those in need, but we selfishly keep our garage full of stuff to ourselves. This is a sinful nature within us. First, we are afflicted by envy or covetousness when we try to keep up with the Joneses, with what the people around us and in TV commercials are doing and wearing. We want what others have, and we will do whatever it takes to get it, whether we can afford it or we really need it or not. Second, we are afflicted by greed. We have this intense desire for more, and we don't want to share what we have. And third, we are afflicted by gluttony. We keep consuming even when we are full and our needs are met, and we finally make ourselves sick. We are living lives where our altars are comfort, convenience, safety, and pleasure. We are living lives without meaning, and we have become slaves to sin. Jesus said that the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they may have life, and life abundantly. The devil, he doesn't need you to do drugs or steal or commit adultery to destroy you. He just needs to convince you to keep pursuing the American dream until it makes you sick, to keep up with the Joneses, to seek after more instant gratification and go into more debt. By doing this, you'll be robbed of all joy, and you'll become a slave to your stuff and sometimes to creditors, and it will keep you from doing God's will. And even Jesus faced this temptation of the American dream in Matthew 4 when the devil, he tempted Jesus to picture all the riches and glories of this world, and he offered it to Jesus if he would only turn away from God's path. Jesus was literally tempted to pursue wealth and power as opposed to sacrificial love. And if Jesus was tempted in this way, we can count on us being tempted in this way. The devil knows that if he can get you in debt, he can make you a slave. If he can convince you to spend all you have, you'll never never offer your tithes to God, never help the poor as you could have, and never use what you have to accomplish God's purposes. If you continue to become a slave to credit card debt, you will not know simplicity, generosity, or joy. So, what is the answer? Like the prodigal son, first and foremost, we need to come back to the embrace of our Father. We need the grace of God. Or like a pumpkin. Anybody who's ever picked a pumpkin from a field or even looked at a pumpkin knows that no pumpkin is perfect. When you're carving a pumpkin, the task is to incorporate the pumpkin's imperfections into the design when you carve into it. You look at the pumpkin and you begin to imagine what it can be. And next you draw a face of some sort on it. And then you come to the first step in the actual transformation of the pumpkin, which is also the messiness. You open it up and you begin to scoop out all of the nasty, slimy, smelly stuff that's inside. Then you carve the face or the design, which is no doubt a bit painful for the pumpkin. And ultimately you replace all of the muck with the light that shines from within. This is what God intends for us, to replace the greed and envy and materialism with God's freedom and His light to shine within us in a way that gives light to others. By seeking first the kingdom of God, by calling God Master, and choosing to serve God's purposes over our own wealth, we begin to sense a higher calling, a calling to simplicity and generosity and faithfulness. We begin to look at ways that we can make a difference with our time and our talents and our resources. By pursuing good financial practices, we free ourselves from debt so that we are able to be in mission to the world. If God calls us to do or to go or to give, we can because we are free from debt and sin. We are blessed to be a blessing. Let me ask you this. Which do you find more admirable in a person? Someone who is living at the edge of his or her means and thus cannot do the things that really matter? Or someone who is living below his or her means and has a meaningful life of purpose? Do you admire the ones who live extravagantly or the ones who give extravagantly? Think about this. What will you still be talking about 5 years from now? How you became debt-free and were able to take care more for the poor? Or how you were able to eat out for one extra meal a week? What would you still be talking about 5 years from now? How you became debt-free and were able to take care more for the poor? Or how you were able to eat out for one extra meal a week?